Hey everyone, welcome to Two Guys Making Tribe, where Gen X meets Gen Y. Enjoy the show.
Let's hit some of your topics here. Let me see here. Dom
Yeah, I
topic.
divided my topics. Okay, so I had my personal like, hey,
Right.
I'd love to talk about these things,
Yeah.
but I was one of the Facebook groups that I'm in. Um, I sat there and polled some of the people. I'm like, hey, I'm going on the show because I've been posting the times that I've come on here
Right.
there for people to hear and gotten some good feedback from them. And I was like, hey, well, what do you guys want to hear about? You know, I enjoy doing the podcast thing, and you've been doing it for a while,
Yeah.
and you enjoy it. And I think we need to be mindful. We want to talk about what we want to talk about, but we also need to be mindful. Well, what do people want to hear
Exactly.
about?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just there's so many people out there doing podcasts or you know video blogs. A lot of the stuff gets repetitive, or it gets driven by money because they're making their living on it.
So
Neither
they
one
have
of
to have
us make a
clicks.
living off of this, so we do it for fun. I figured, you know, how about we ask the audience?
Definitely.
So that's where that second set of things were.
Okay. So, here, since you sent it to me,
All
I'll
right,
let.
so this is one thing that I think would be a good topic, and it's like basic preparedness in a suburban area. And let me put this in the
Yeah.
context, okay? So there's three general types of area. You have your urban,
Mhm.
where you're at the city core, the high rises downtown, or the immediate areas outside there. What used to be the old suburbia is now the urban. Okay, older structures, usually on city municipal stuff, and then you have your suburban areas, which are the master plan communities with the HOAs, very restrictive. They're usually on the county utilities, sometimes on a septic or a well, depending on where you're at. And then you have your rural, and then you're basically well and septic, rural roads. People have acre plus. Okay, um, preparing for each one of those areas is quite different. They'll have some commonalities. I mean, people got to eat, people got to have water, you got to have a means to defend yourself. Okay, you need your medical, but what you're able to do and how much of it, okay, really is determined by where you live. You know, in the chat that I moderate, I have people in all the different areas. You know, um, now I'm in suburban area where Brendan's in a rural area. Okay. Now, I'm in an HOA community. I don't own my home. Even if I did, there's not really many things I could do. I could probably tear up my backyard and make a garden. Okay. But outside of that, I mean, what else can you do? I mean, you can stack some food, you can stack some supplies, basically,
Rabbits in the garage.
right? And you still
They're quiet.
have to go to the rural areas to train,
Yeah.
you know, for the most part. And even if I had a property. I have another friend that has like I think he's got like half acre or 3/4 acre. So he's got rabbits and chickens and a garden and everything, but he's retired, so he's got the time to do it.
Right.
So it's more about you know it's somewhat about where he's at, but more about what he has. I mean, what time he has to do it and the resources. Okay, Brendan has lives in a rural area, has plenty of land, and he does all kinds of farm stuff. You know,
Like we're in the weird area here. It's semi-rural. I mean, like literally 5 minutes north, and you're in small town becoming a small city. Go 5 minutes south, rural, hardcore rural. We're in that like buffer zone where we got 2.5, 5, 10 acre properties here, but like literally, we are a stone's throw from civilization, so to speak. And what's really funny here in the manor is on any given night, especially on the weekends, you hear gunfire all over because everyone's training in their backyards. We have berms set up, we shoot, we train, and with the new influx of people coming in from everywhere else, it's funny. I'm watching, on Osceola Rants and Raves, the different Facebook groups for the St. Cloud, kind of stuff in like the area, and you could already tell where the people have come from. If the people have come from a blue state and they tend left, they're like, what can we do about all these gunshots we're hearing all the time? Join in. Because where they come from, if they hear gunshots, it's because a crime is happening. So I understand them being kind of freaked out. You know, here it's because we're practicing
It's a competition in my neighborhood.
Oh,
You'll hear
yeah.
a guy with a handgun. 10 minutes later, it's a guy with a shotgun down the other side.
And
Then you hear a rifle go off.
some 3-round bursts, and then
Right.
someone's got their binary trigger.
Yeah. Oh, it's gotten to the point too. As soon as my wife hears gunshots, she just pokes her head in the door. No, no more.
Exactly. Um, but I mean, and I see these people on there, and some of them are learning though, because they'll call the sheriff, and the sheriff will be like, because I have friends that are in the sheriff's department, that they'll be like, ma'am, there's nothing we can do there. What they're doing is 100% legal. They've got a berm. They're on their properties, and these people are like, oh, they just, or my favorite thing, they move to a rural area where there are farm animals, and then they call to complain about the smell of shit. You moved to a rural area with farms and cows and horses and pigs and chickens. What else did you expect to smell?
So I don't know about out here, but in my area, there has been a huge problem where people, I'm assuming, have moved out from the cities.
Right.
We don't know who's doing it, but somebody's going around to people's farm animals and like feeding them through the fence. And so they're just throwing like whole loaves of bread and stuff like that. And these animals are getting sick eating the plastic and stuff. And I'm just waiting for one day somebody's going to try and pet a cow through a fence and get their hand broken and then try and sue.
Yeah.
But it's happening all over my area.
I mean, you try and milk a bull once,
Yeah.
and you have a friend for life.
Well, those those are some good points. So suburban preppers got to understand a lot of what you can do is stock up supplies
Yeah.
in the space that you have. If you want to learn the skills, you got to go outside your suburban area.
Yes.
Either you go to places where you can get professional training, whether it's to learn how to use firearms or get medical training or whatever, or make friends with people that live in the rural area
Right.
and that have animals. So because a lot of people have the dream of, oh, I'm going to move out to the country. Okay. Now they want to move out to the country to get away from people. Yeah, that's a common thing. But like Brendan said, we got animals. You guys got animals. It smells like poop, especially if you've got chickens. Okay,
It's not as
is there a
easy to
chicken
cheap as you
processing
think either.
farm within a couple miles? Because that stuff carries.
Oh yeah.
But to do some of the skills that you would like to have in the prepper fantasy, you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now Brendan having a property, he's able to do a lot of that stuff on his own. Okay, or he can invite his people in. Hey, this is a space, it's private, we can do X, Y, Z. People that live in suburbia, they don't have that option. I have a fence around the back of my house, so I can do some stuff and have some privacy.
Yeah.
But there's no one way to go about it.
Right.
And I think there's more suburban preppers. That's the whole point of that question to bring it to bear, is that there's probably more suburban preppers than there are rural preppers.
Well, see, I always tell people though, regardless of where you live, suburban or in the city, I understand that's where your job is, that's where you have to live. But if you can't grow food yourself, become friends with, network with someone that does grow food. But you have to bring something to the table, be it a skill, a trade, whatever, so that when the poo hits the fan, and even if it's not complete food defense. Let's say, they've gone to the CBDC, central bank digital currency, and you need food, but for some reason you can't, get. Well, if you know people in the rural areas that are under the black market at that point, they're growing their own food illegally, whatever, you know. But if you have connections with those people, you bring something to the table, you can trade with them, so you don't starve.
I've known a lot of Cuban refugees in my life, and some of the stories that you hear about that same
Yep.
situation, the rationing systems that each household had, just I don't want to try and remember what exactly his rations for the month were, but it was something that it made me think, dude, I eat that in a day,
Yeah,
2 days
yeah.
sometimes.
It's like
And
one or two chickens a month, and it's this
right.
crazy little bit.
Well, the way a guy I used to work with, Richard, the way he would provide for his family is he was a school teacher and he spoke English. So he would go down to the resorts and translate for businessmen to the young ladies working in the resorts. And so it was illegal for a Cuban man to talk to a tourist, and it was illegal for them to have foreign money. So he would only accept food. That was the deal. I'll translate for you. You buy me a meal.
Mhm.
He said that and American beer. And then later told me it was Heineken. I didn't have the heart to tell him it wasn't American beer. But it was funny because that was the way he had to
Yeah.
survive. And he'd tell me stories of, being on the rationing system that it got to the point to where he ate his neighbor's cat one time because he had not had meat. I forget what happened, but like they didn't get meat 2 months in a row. And he was to the point he was on death's door.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Now, please remember to like and subscribe and share with your friends. We will see you next time.